Referee played a good advantage there for Sunderland. Embleton with options either side, and Broad heads through and gives Sunderland genuine hope.
Embleton whips it in, swinging
Goal.
in, it's in!
Ross Stewart.
It's Stewart! He's nodded it down into the corner!
Run by Pritchard, who pulls it across, chance to make it two. And Elliot Embleton seizes that opportunity. Head at the far post.
Oh, that's
in! And yes! He squeezed it in!
Whipped in again. Pressure kept on here by the Black Cats. Whipped into the centre. Nodded in! Tom Flanagan.
Inviting Neil to shoot. It's exactly what he does. And he fires Sunderland into the lead.
Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland preview show. We've been coming at you thick and fast over the festive period with previews and reviews coming out of your ears, but nonetheless, we're back with more of the same. The Fleetwood game is off due to alleged COVID cases and injuries, but as we speak, our final game of 2021 is on, and it's a tricky clash at home to Sheffield Wednesday. It's been a funny few years at Hillsborough, so we thought we'd invite James from the Wednesday Till I Die pod to give us the lowdown on the Owl season so far and probably the years beforehand. But first and foremost, mate, how are you? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you, Graham. Cheers for inviting me on the podcast, as always.
Not a problem at all, mate. Pleasure. How was your Christmas? All right?
Yeah, it's been good. I've got two young kids, so the magic of Christmas has been there, and yeah, it's been a good one. Hectic at times, but it's just over far too quick, isn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, I think it was slightly better than last year's Christmas.
Yeah, just slightly.
A tad better, but I felt like I got more drunk last year.
Well, with the kids, I can't do that anymore, so I have to be sensible.
I think, as we kind of like spoke before, and we spoke off air, the Christmas period is supposed to be busy for all British clubs, although Jurgen Klopp would prefer it wasn't. Unless this one gets postponed by the time it goes out, which I hope it doesn't. This will be Sheffield Wednesday's first game since the 11th of December. That feels like a longer time than most. I'm assuming all the games have been called off due to COVID. I know some of them have, but has it been a mixture of reasons? Has it all been COVID cases in Sheffield Wednesday squad or other squads, or why have they all been called off?
In both occasions, it's on both of them. It's been us. I know the Burton game on Boxing Day was both of us. I think the Accrington game was just us. So when you said that, like the 11th of December against Crewe was the last game. I mean, if you go back, I'm a home season ticket holder. Because of the kids, I don't get to go to all the away. Well, to any away game so far this season, I do struggle. But you look at the last home fixture we had was the 27th of November, and then the next two fixtures are away. So the next time we're at home is something like the 15th of January, which seems like nearly 2 months since we've been able to go to a home game. If that obviously indeed goes ahead at that point, and it's it's been far too long, and just want to get back to playing football, really, and watching football even. Yeah,
when you said today, I was like, how have I not clicked on to the fact that you haven't played since like the 11th? But I think there's just so many games going by the wayside, and hey, look, no one likes speaking about it. Everyone's kind of bored with it, and we've all got our boosters. Well, most of us. If you're listening, get your booster, so we can go back to football. But I think we're all a bit tired of it. But it's kind of hard to ignore, isn't it? It's become. I mean, are you in? Obviously, as fans, we all want to watch football, but are you in support of the teams calling games off if they've got 4 or 5 first teamers? There's been a few teams. I don't want to point out Fleetwood. But that have had 7 injuries and 4 COVID cases. And I don't know if that sits right with us. I don't know.
I mean, look, I think it's something that I think we need to get used to in terms of the fact that it's, COVID is a thing and it's been here for a while now. It's a tricky one because, I know people that, close to home that have had the virus. I know people that have been ill. I know people that haven't been ill. And it's easy to say, well, they're all right. The footballers, they should be highly tuned and things like that. But, the clubs aren't going to come out and say, I don't know if Sunderland have come out and said who have contracted it. I know we certainly haven't. We don't know how many. We don't know who they are. They could be staff for all we know. We haven't got a clue. I'd like to think that the fact that the games have been called off, they must have been first team players. But if people have got it and they are unwell, first of all, I hope that they are all right, and the people that are involved, can get back to playing football. But I know certainly from people that I know that have had it, just to get back playing football, and especially at the levels that you expect them to play at, it'd be difficult for him to do that just after however many days. But go back to your earlier question. It's really frustrating. I don't want it to go to a point whereby we're playing behind closed doors and things like that. But if more and more games get called off, then I can't. I don't know I really don't know what's going to happen. I just think that, like I said, we just need to get on with it. And like I said, I just hope the people that are affected are all right.
I suppose what could happen is FIFA could just take away the World Cup from Qatar, so we don't have to start early next season. We just extend the season, but money, of course.
I mean, the only one good thing is that the season's been quite heavily weighted, like in terms of the start of the season. We were playing a lot of Saturday, Tuesday at the start of the season. If you look for the remaining fixtures, I think of the however many weeks are left, 17 weeks or something, I think there's only 2 or 3 midweek fixtures that are actually penciled in, and we've had 2 that have been postponed, so there's another 2 that are going to go in there. So I think it's quite clever with what they've been doing. People were saying at the start of the season, it's games coming thick and fast, but it does kind of tail off from 2022 to the remainder of the season. So that is a little positive in that at least we're not going to get to the situation whereby I think it was Rotherham at the back end of last season where they were playing Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday every week just to get all their games in.
I think in a way probably as well, it feels like a lot, but not to quote Jurgen Klopp, but we do play a lot of games. I suppose, which I quite like. I think most fans like, because we like more football more often. That's the way it is, I suppose. But maybe it's just a perfect storm of this Omicron's come along. It's certainly more transmissible, and you're playing a lot more games. So I suppose maybe perfect storm when it gets back into less games. Maybe we'll see less cancellations, and I think hopefully we'll get to finish the season. But I think in total, looking at Wednesday, it's been almost 3 weeks since you played when you face us. So how concerned will Sheffield Wednesday fans be that there's going to be a bit of rustiness and like I say, potential that fixture pile up when you're obviously going to be looking for promotion in some way, shape, size, or form?
Yeah, it's a strange one because on one hand, we've been on a decent run of form. We're 12 games unbeaten. All right, there's been a lot of draws in that, 7 draws and 5 wins, I think it is, off the top of my head. But we were doing well. We've just come off the back of a decent win against Crewe. All right, I know they're down near the bottom, but we had a decent performance. We did well against Portsmouth to say we went down to 10 men. So from that point of view, like I said, we don't know who's affected. So it could be some of our best players. We don't know that. So on one hand, you're thinking, if they're going to be out, we're going to be struggling. But on the other hand, the team has been affected by injuries, and some of those players will be coming back from injury as well, the likes of Sam Hutchinson, Dominic Iorfa. He was going to be back in January, so he's not going to be too far off. Dennis Adeniran, he was one of our standout players at the start of the season. He's been out for a while. He should be back into contention as well. So on that hand, if they're ones that haven't contracted COVID, they're going to be in the fray for starting, which has got to be seen as a positive. So it's a strange one. Like I said, it all depends on the side that we're going to put out, because at the moment we don't know who it's going to be. We don't know if we've only just got the 14 or we've no idea.
I think correct me if I'm wrong here, but I know Aidan O'Brien's definitely been confirmed as one of our cases, and I'm sure they came up with another 2 players, under 23 player, that is unlikely to play, in one player. Obviously, Jordan Willis, I think, was the other confirmed out for the rest of the season. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure it was those 3. I think we came out and confirmed it, so it's a bit of a different situation, but you're waiting for that horrible storm of another 7 players contracting at the same time, but fingers crossed it doesn't. But I mean, obviously Sheffield Wednesday as a club are undoubtedly one of the biggest clubs in this league, far and wide. But we'll go back a little further to sort of last season. I think most people are aware of the points deduction. I think at first it was 12, then reduced to 6, which kind of really didn't make a difference to your season, unfortunately. It meant you were up against it all season. We've chatted a little bit sort of off air about what it was like last season for Wednesday fans being behind closed doors, like many of us. But what was last season like, feeling kind of almost hopeless and that you couldn't even go to the games to kind of show your fierce, loyal supporters?
It was awful, to tell you the truth. You just said it there, 12 points deducted at the start of the season. It's not our fault in terms of the fans' fault. It's the owner. Yeah, we nearly got to the promised land, and it seems like he chucked all his eggs in one basket without any kind of plan B, or with the kind of being given the wrong advice on what to do. He's never been a football owner before. It's something he's never done. But the fact that last season, like I said, 12 points deducted. Did that hinder our kind of recruitment at the start of the season? Probably. Who's going to really come to a side that obviously later transpires that don't pay the wages on time? Everyone talks to each other, so I'm sure players that they've been looking at, that they would have found that out. Like I said, and also going to be 12 points adrift before we've even kicked a ball. Yes, it got reduced to 6, which is a bit of a farce in itself, but we were just awful last season. I think it was a culmination of the fact that we'd signed players in previous years on big contracts, paying them big wages, on 3-4 year deals, and they just weren't good enough. We were getting old. We'd not shipped players on that we perhaps should have done. And yeah, the players that we were bringing in weren't really good enough. I mean, on paper, the side should have been good. I mean, Jordan Rhodes bangs them in for Huddersfield, and it was a total disaster for us. Alman Abdi is another one that hardly ever played. He was just always injured, and we had Stephen Fletcher. He then went to Stoke after said he was going to finish his career at Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, a player that you'll know as well from his time at Sunderland. But it was just an absolute car crash, and you said there, we didn't get a chance to go, but it was probably a blessing in disguise, because I think it would have been a lot more hostile, and maybe that's what it perhaps needed, give him a bit of a kick up the arse. But no, it was a terrible season. The fact that we just missed out, the fact that it went to the last game of the season were an absolute miracle in itself. It was almost like none of the sides at the bottom kind of wanted to survive, and it was a strange one. On the podcast we spoke, and we were saying we were like 15 games before the end, and we'd already resigned to like League One football next season, and it was just kind of delaying the inevitable somewhat. But Rotherham, they couldn't win at the end of the season. Derby couldn't win either. We were picking points up here and there. We had it was I think today was a year to the day that Tony Pulis got sacked after his 10-game reign. We had Gary Monk before that. Then we had Darren Moore. After it was just a bit of it was a nightmare season, really. And at the end of the season, it was strange, because we thought that, what's going to happen to us? I genuinely thought that we would fall straight through League One and go into League Two at the end of last season. I thought that the fact that we hardly had any players that were contracted, they were all going to leave at the end of Adam Reach, Kieran Westwood, Jordan Rhodes, Tom Lees. I can go on of all the players that left for nothing at the end of last season, and we had about 13 players, senior players, which some had never even played for the first team. So, but then we made some good signings. Darren Moore made 13, 14 signings, I think it was, in the summer, and things looked quite promising. But yeah, last season was a total write-off, and I'd want to just forget it, to be fair.
It's funny, there's always Sunderland have got Our Story. Our Story's on Netflix, obviously, but a lot of teams that sort of came down have had some sort of mismanagement from the top, and then it falls down onto the fans, and we have to deal with the shit. And there's a few stories in this division, but I've got to be honest, obviously, we've spoken before, and I've been on your podcast as well, and I must admit, obviously, because we follow each other, at times reading your status has made me chuckle, because it feels like me 4 years ago, and I'm going, oh, Sheffield Wednesday getting League One treatment. But it's a funny old League One. Is the best way I can put it. I have a feeling I know what the answer is going to be, but what have yourself and Wednesday fans made of League One since you fell into it?
It's at the start of the season, like I just said there, I think that quite a lot of us would have thought that it was going to be a struggle when we got relegated, and we knew what was coming. We didn't know what was going to happen. But when we started making the signings, and some of the signings are top quality signings as well. Lee Gregory for starters. Dennis Adeniran, he's a top quality player. These, the signings that we were making were promising, and come the end of the summer, the fact that we kept Barry Bannon as well, who most would have thought that he would have gone to a top championship club at the end of last season. All of those, and the start that we made as well. We were top of the league after 5 games, I think it were. We'd kept 5 clean sheets. We were 4 wins as well on the spin. We were doing really well, and at the time we thought this is easy, like which is a total mistake to make. But then since then it's just been frustrating, and we tend to struggle against the teams that the teams. I do a show like this myself, and no disrespect, but when you talk to the likes of Accrington Stanley fans or Fleetwood or Shrewsbury, who we're coming up against on Sunday, they're the teams that are happy and delighted to pick up a point against us. They're the teams that we struggle against. I mean, we've only lost 3 games this season. Morecambe was one, which was an own goal, and we were dominated for most of that game. Plymouth was the only team that have actually beat us in terms of players off the park, and they beat us 3-0. And then we lost to Oxford at home, which we perhaps should have beat them. Really, to be fair, we were just mistakes cost us in that game, and that's it. We've drawn a hell of a lot of games, but we've just been frustrating. It's been a lot of individual mistakes that we've made, and it's a funny old league. This league, I was talking earlier, and I was saying how it reminds me. It's like the National League in a sense that there's a lot of big clubs like ourselves and you, of course, Ipswich, Charlton, Portsmouth, Wigan, Bolton, and only 3 teams can get promoted. And it's a bit of like a bottleneck. You get the big clubs that can't get out of the league. And yes, on one hand you could say, well, it's a strong league in that sense, but then you get teams that are coming up from League Two that, like I said, that it's like, you must have had it for the last 4 seasons. It's like their cup final when they come, and I don't know if you've played Gillingham yet. Well, you must have played Gillingham at some point this season, but they came to us and they just parked the bus for they got an early goal and then parked the bus for the 90 minutes, and it was an absolute awful game to watch. And they've gone away with a point, and they're absolutely delighted. And yeah, we like to play football. I know you do yourself as well, but sometimes I know it's football, and I know you can't just have it your own way. But I find that it's a lot tougher division than what we first thought. But things have like I said, we've gone on a 12-game unbeaten run. We're starting to pick up the pace. If I said to you that we've probably, even when we beat you at home 3-0. I still don't think that was a 90-minute performance, to be fair, and because you did come into it in the second half. But there's probably been 2 games where we've actually put in a decent performance, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, that we lie 8th and having not really played that well this season.
A funny league in a sense, because a lot of things you say kind of really resonate, and probably will with Sunderland fans. I feel like we're kind of, don't want to say bogged down in it, because we're quite enjoying this season, but there's a point where the first preview show I ever did, we had Charlton at home, and I got my old mate Nathan on. Well, he's my old mate now, he wasn't then. And I says, League One, Charlton, you've been in the Premier League, you've been in the Championship, what's League One like? He said, you'll get one game where you get like shit housed off like Walsall in the last minute or something, and you'll hate it. But for the first 5-6 weeks, you'll just love it. You'll think it's a right laugh. And we went to Gillingham, funny enough, and Gillingham have many times pulled results off against us. But we went to Gillingham on a Tuesday night, lovely sunny August, and we won 4-1, and we thought, brilliant, we're going to love this for a season, straight back up. And then obviously that didn't happen. And there's always a game where you go, oh, bloody hell. And for me, it seems like a non-itty game, because we didn't lose, but we drew 1-1 at home to Oxford. Max Power got sent off. Don't think it was a red card. I think it got rescinded. And they just frustrated us all game. And then we end up getting a goal late on near the end. But has there been a particular game this season for Sheffield where you've gone, oh bloody hell, is this League One?
Morecambe, probably. That was our first defeat. We were on, we were top of the league, thinking this is easy. We've gone to their place. Probably the first. I think the other two away games were Charlton at the start of the season and Rotherham, who it's a new stadium, but like Morecambe was probably the first League One game, if you know what I mean, like a proper League One team play away from home, and we've gone there to the seaside and played well for most of it. To be fair, not played them off the park and not like playing like Brazil, but we've done all right. And like I said, an own goal, and they've just parked the bus, defended for their lives, and they've beat us 1-0. And to be fair, at the start of the season, we did struggle for creating chances. Like I said, we were top of the league, but we'd not really scored a load of goals, and we're not really played very well either. But yeah, that one does stick out as a League One, proper League One game. There's others like Cambridge away from home as well, where, if I remember rightly, were cold, wet, windy, rainy. I mean, and like yourself, if you're playing a big stadium, you kind of forget that. Yes, the wind does swirl around a bit, and ours obviously has got the open corners as opposed to yours, it's just like a bowl. But the wind does swirl around a little bit, but it doesn't really affect the game that much. But you play at some of these small grounds, which for example, Accrington, where there's no roof on the way end, it peed it down all day, and the away fans were just wet through, and we won that game 3-2. But yeah, I think really the Morecambe game. Actually, we've only lost 3 games this season. At home to Oxford and a 3-0 at Plymouth, who at the time were probably I think they were top of the league at the time as well, and they were one of the best teams that we'd played. But yeah, I'd have to say the Morecambe game, hammered them. And I don't know if you play Football Manager, but when they say they've been FM'd, where the XG's about 3, you've not scored, and their XG's like 0.25, and they've scored an absolute worlder. It weren't a worlder that they scored; it was an own goal. But it was funny because we'd kept clean sheets up until that point, and we were still saying, well, technically, Bailey Peacock-Farrell's not even conceded a goal yet because we put it in the net for him. But yeah,
it's funny you mentioned Accrington. But obviously, the first time I went Accrington, it was very novelty, and I've been a few times since. But the first time I went, our game got called off in the 72nd minute at 1-1 because it was that rainy. Like the fans started taking, they just started. I remember, I think they equalised, and I went, you know what, fuck this, and just went under, went into like a porter cabin, like a pretend shitter basically, and was like, I remember standing there going, what am I doing in Accrington? And as I came out, I remember the lad just went, mate, the game's off, we're all going home. And I was like, it's finished in 50 minutes. He's like, mate, he's cold out, the ball's not moving. And I don't think anyone complained.
To be fair, there was a game that I thought we should have got called off, was when you played Portsmouth. That you needed your flippers in that one. I don't know how that game even went ahead.
I think because Portsmouth were winning. I get the feeling that might have been why. But yeah, that was horrific. But Accrington was... Yeah, that was definitely welcome to League One. It's quite interesting because obviously we have the comparisons, and it's easy for me to look from the outside looking in and make assumptions or make comparisons or whatnot. But Sheffield are a club that you wouldn't expect to see in League One 9 times out of 10. I'm 35. I grew up watching Sheffield, predominantly lower end Premier League, and getting to finals in the League Cup finals, semi-finals. Championship for quite a few years, to be fair, but never League One level. But these things do happen. We've discussed why there's clubs down here for numerous reasons. We don't need to go into that. We know why. We know why we're here. We know why you're here. But much like Sunderland, our target amongst fans is always promotion, an automatic promotion almost at all cost at points. We don't really like the playoffs for obvious reasons. You mentioned before the expectations were, would we go straight through the division again? Obviously, you started the season really, really well. How's looking at the likes of ourselves, like Sunderland and other clubs, and maybe Sheffield United a few years ago, obviously being your close neighbours, and Leeds for how long Leeds were down here. Do you look at the struggles of clubs like that of getting out of the division and think, maybe this is going to be turbulent? Or do you think, no, we still need to get promoted?
I think, when we got relegated, everyone was saying, let's not do a Sunderland. So that's what we're talking about, really, and we don't want to do that. I mean, I think you look at the squad on paper that we've got, and we've got some really good players. Now, I think that, obviously we don't know this for certain, but surely the reason why these players are here, I mean, it was a bit like a snowball effect. Players started signing. Apparently, Barry Bannon was influential in some of them joining, and then it was kind of like, oh, wait a minute, those three have signed. That's good. That's going to be a good side, and they're going to be doing things this season and stuff. And I just feel that if we don't get promoted at this opportunity, I don't know if some of them players are going to stick around. And financially, that's the finances are the reason why we're in this division. If we didn't get 6 points deducted last season, we would have stayed up. I don't know if it was a blessing in disguise, because it did. I think if we'd have stayed up, we'd have perhaps kept some of the players that we'd let go, because we could probably still afford to keep them, but actually they weren't working and what have you. But that's another story. But onto the like expectations and stuff. Then it's funny, because I said that at the start of the season, before we'd kicked the ball, if we don't go up, it's not a disaster, as long as we're heading in the right direction. But I think, as I got ridiculed for that, and saying that we're Sheffield Wednesday, we shouldn't be in League One and stuff like that. But I don't think just because a name means you should play in any division. It's what happens on the pitch and off the pitch as well. And I think just with everything that's gone on, personally, I just think, like I said, if we could see an improvement, which we have seen an improvement, you could say that the squad we've got is arguably better than what we had last season. It's just not quite clicked at the moment. But I feel like we do need to get out of this division sooner rather than later, because then you'll then start to lose the players that we've got. Can we then bring in the same or better caliber of player? If you seem to be a club that's stuck in this division, it might be harder to do that. But yeah, I think when we sit 8th at the moment, going into just after Christmas, if he'd have said at the start of the season that we'd be in this position, I'd have took that. To be fair, I think it's not too bad of a position to be in. Rotherham looked like they were running away with it. They've lost their last game, and to be fair, it's probably the best position to be, just outside the playoffs. Put a bit of decent run together, and hopefully we can climb up. But no, we need to get out, and not at all costs, because we tried that out of the Championship and look what happened. But I think as long as we can do the right things off the pitch, we need to get out as soon as we can.
Funny, isn't it, when you look at, because I feel like I'm going back to this a lot, but I remember when we came down, obviously we signed Chris Maguire, who you'll know well. We still had McGeady was still playing, but a lot of young boys came through, and a lot of the kind of mercenaries, the likes of Rodwell and that, kind of disappeared and went, and the players that hadn't built up any affinity with Sunderland fans because of obvious reasons. We had new ownership in, which that's a podcast in itself. But at the time, it felt like, new start, fresh, maybe turning this around and getting the machine turned in the right direction is the best thing. But then there was a part of you that was saying, well, I need to be realistic. It's been we fell through 2 divisions, and obviously your side is like, we've had these financial issues, we've fell down in this division, and you try to be realistic. But there's a nagging feeling at the back of your mind, isn't there, where you're just like, oh, fucking hell, no longer in the season, please. And we're obviously 4 seasons deep into it. I think ultimately, because of the size of both clubs historically, and like you say, we are where we are for a reason, but historically, you don't feel at home in these leagues, and you're there to be shot at. We're here 4 seasons, and people still see us as a big game because of the size of the stadium, fan base and whatnot. I think ultimately, for Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland, anything less than promotion this season is not a total disaster, but it's not a happy season, is it?
No, definitely not. Like I said, it's always the aim, and I don't think. The players came out at the start of the season and they were saying, we want automatic promotion. We want to go up as champions. I mean, I know everyone's going to say that, but for players to come out and say that does carry a bit of weight behind it. It's not just the fans that are getting excited. They're getting excited for a reason, because the players are saying that. And I think, on paper we've put together a good side. It's just the fact that, like I said, we've not played well too often, and we've thrown points away, which has been the disappointing thing. It's not Darren Moore's come under quite a bit of stick at the start of the season, or like the middle part of the season, should I say, where we did lose I think we went some like 6 games and only 1 win, and a bit of a poor run, and we were dropping down the table a little bit. But he came under criticism for kind of chopping and changing the side all the time and not knowing what his best 11 is. We've had injuries as well, which hasn't helped. But it was the fact that these good players, you expect them to, they've been with each other since the summer. You expect them to be able to play and play in the formation that they've been given in, and when you're on paper one of the best sides, it is frustrating when it's an individual mistake. I mean, I go back to the Ipswich game. You must have seen it where Bailey Peacock-Farrell chucks the ball down, the guy runs in, and they get an equaliser. I mean, I could go through the whole season. I could probably tell you 5 or 6 different occasions where a mistake has led. I mean, when you're 4-0 up and you make a mistake, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's 4-1, you still get 3 points. But the mistakes that we've made, I mean, 2-0 up at AFC Wimbledon, and in the last 10 minutes it's 2-2. It was like a running joke that we were conceding like goals in the 90th minute to either, well, not lose a game, but to draw a game, and it's it was just really, really frustrating. I know football's like that. You could go through the whole season. I'm sure you've had many occasions in the last 4 years where you can say, well, if this had happened, that had happened, etc., we wouldn't have been here. But it is annoying when you do look back and see them moments, and you think, oh, if that had just happened, or it's annoying.
Funny looking back, it's like this is not a good thing for you, so forgive me in advance. But I'm just hearing Jack Ross season 1. Like drawing too many games, conceding goals at the end after being 1-up, making stupid mistakes. But
the thing is though, I know you said about us being all you can remember is in the Premiership and stuff like that. I mean, I'm 32, and my earliest memory is the 99-2000 season where we got relegated. And then after that is when I actually started going and having a season ticket and stuff. So I've never seen us in the Premier League. And when people talk to us about David Hurst and Chris Waddle and people like that, I've never seen them. So all I've seen is the then Division 1. Obviously, we've been down here twice before in my time. The early 2000s when we came up in the playoffs, and then also in 2012 we came up as well. Both times it took us 2 seasons to get out, and in both occasions the first season weren't great. It was like a mid-table, and every time as well it's always been money that's been the issue, in terms of we've had to shop in the freeze and the loan market and stuff like that. And like I said, it's took us. We've never come straight back up, having been relegated. Obviously, we got relegated out of the Premier League. We never went back. We've never been back up there. So, it's not. We're not in uncharted territory. But like I said, it's been nearly 10 years since we've been down here. But some of them games were, definitely that season in 2011, 2012 were perhaps the best season that we've had in recent years.
Funny when you mentioned back to the season that you first started going. I remember specifically, I forgot that you went down that season, because I remember Kevin Phillips scoring 2 goals in the last 5 minutes or something at Hillsborough in like a March time. I was on holiday in Thailand, and I remember my dad being significantly inebriated. It was quite a good Saturday that was in Thailand, but long time ago. Obviously 3 managers you had last season. Sorry, Gary Monk, who seems to have gone to every single club and failed. Tony Pulis. A year
to the day since he was sacked, by the way.
Interesting. For 10 games, is that what he had?
10 games. I put a tweet out earlier saying things that lasted longer than Tony Pulis. I'll have a look at them. There's well, that's an obvious one, but someone said Usain Bolt. But yeah, there's some funny responses if I have a look at that one.
Is there? The last preview show I had on was Doncaster, funnily enough, and obviously Adam's someone I spoke to about Darren Moore, and then I spoke to him about Darren Moore when he came back, because it was 10 months, I think, from our games against each other. As it was, he obviously appreciated Darren Moore and what he did. He was a bit unsure as to why he left. I think, if I'm honest, it was a bit of a strange move at the time because of the deduction of the points you had, he was doing actually really well with Donny, but he said he's been getting a bit of stick recently. I think he's been in charge about 10 months. Obviously, take out the 2 months because that would have been pre-season. But what were fans made of him at first? Because obviously, young up-and-coming manager, well, like Doncaster, took a bit of a risk.
It's a strange one because historically we don't go for managers that are in work. Normally when your manager gets sacked, you look at who's out of work, and it's normally the same faces, and it's a bit of a managerial merry-go-round. So the fact that we went for someone that, like you said there, was doing well, never in a million years, like you said, thought that he would leave, because the writing was on the wall in terms of, I know it went to the last game of the season and we nearly made it, but for a long part of the season we were, we'd already resigned ourselves to playing in League One. So to come to a club that was already doomed, and then potentially, Doncaster Rovers could have got promoted. I know they kind of, when he left, the wheels kind of came off, and they struggled in come the end of the season. But it did seem a bit of a strange decision. Now, I were happy with the decision. I think the fact that he were doing well, everyone was thinking, well, he knows the division, he's played at a higher level. I think that does help you in terms of the contacts that he's got, and I think we've seen that in terms of the players that he's been able to bring in. I don't think an up and coming new manager in terms of someone that's not played at in the Premier League and stuff like that would be able to bring in the players that he has. Bailey Peacock-Fowle from Burnley, for example. Dennis Adeniran, he's come from Everton. I've got a few loanees as well from Middlesbrough. I think it's good that that we've been able to attract that manager. I think money was probably a contributing factor as to why he's left, and undoubtedly, are Doncaster a club that, if they got into the Championship, could they get into the Premier League? Probably not. I don't think they're that type of club. I'd like to think that if he got us out of League One, we could potentially challenge. We were nearly there 5 years ago, so
it's feasible, isn't it? It's feasible. Yeah. I think that you could jump. It's been done before, whereas Donny's probably their first.
Yeah. Championship's probably the ceiling for them. No yes. Disrespect to them. So I can see, obviously, we're a big club. I don't want to keep saying it too much. It's a bit like a broken record, but
no, at this level, it's true. I don't think you're saying anything wrong in that. I feel the same when I guest on pods, but we both are big clubs, especially at this level.
Yes, but I mean, I was excited by it. Really, I thought what he was doing was great. I mean, he's come in and he's been a bit, like I said, he's been chopping and changing the side, and the paper that what he always uses the phrase horses for courses and what have you, and he's been changing the side to fit the opposition it's going up against. And I just think at this level it's probably the wrong thing to do, in a sense that you need to back yourself in terms of your formation, your players. You need the opposition to worry about you, not you worrying about them. Like I said, no disrespect to some of the clubs that we've been coming up against, but when you're playing Lincoln or Accrington or Morecambe or whoever it is, yeah, they might have a tall striker or whatever they might play a direct style of football, but we should have enough firepower to beat that, and that shouldn't really worry us. That being said, when we played you, I think we did play a more physical game, and I think that's down to the fact that that's what Rotherham did the week before to you and beat you 5-1, and it actually worked that day. So maybe what I'm saying is just totally out the window, because and we are where we are with him playing that sort of style. But it's something that we were making changes left, right and centre. I don't think there's been one game where we've played, well, there hasn't been a game where we've played the same 11 in 2 consecutive weeks. I know there's been injuries and stuff like that which don't help, but he's making 2, 3, 4 changes every week and playing players out of position, which is a strange one. We signed Marvin Johnson as a left winger, and he's now playing left centre back, which I don't think he's ever played in his entire life. But the strange thing is that he's actually been all right in that position, which maybe you've got to hand it to Darren Moore in the sense that he's seen something in him there.
I understand where you're coming from with that, though. I think one of the reasons, obviously, we've had a bit of a rocky spell, and you only have to go a little bit further back into my tweets, especially after the Sheffield Wednesday game, to see how I felt about that particularly rocky spell. But in truth, I've probably been wrong in a lot of the things I thought during that spell. I think Sunderland this season have had like a real identity, and we've brought our own sort of swagger with good young players playing the football we want to play. And we even did that at Arsenal. We got hammered 5-1, and the games we have lost have been the physical games. The Sheffield Wednesday game, I totally agree with you on that. And I think Rotherham were very physical. Portsmouth were physical. Obviously, that pitch was a disgrace at the time, but let's
it doesn't suit a free-flowing passing game of football, that one, did it? To be
try and get their ones down the wings. There wasn't any wings that existed. But we have had our own style of play. We've imposed our own game. So I agree with you on that. And it does kind of bring that to my penultimate question, I suppose. I think you probably saw Sunderland at the worst Sunderland this season in the reverse fixture. I watched the game on the stream, and unfortunately wasn't able to go down with it being midweek. Frustrating performance because we kind of came back into it late on in the first half and second half. But in reality, we got bullied out of it. But since then, we've completely turned it around. The mood is actually much better. And for the first time in my life, I've said that I'm wrong. And I never say that because I'm normally right. But what have you made of Sunderland season from afar? Because obviously, I assume you look at us as a club as the model for the previous 3 seasons, what not to do. Do we look a bit more like the club of what to do now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one because, you know, like you said there, you know, when we played you earlier, it was a game that I saw it as like the test. You know what I mean? Like a club that, you know, we can. It's a bit of like a yardstick. Like, where have we come? Where are we now? And it was like I say, it was a strange one in the sense that I think you had quite a few injuries, which didn't help. Played quite a young side, and you know it was bizarre in that we'd, you know, beat you 3-0, and like I said, we didn't really play that. I think first 10 or 15 minutes were a good game of football from our point of view. But then also, you came into it, but look, like I said, from looking from afar. You are playing that, you know, attractive football, you know, free flowing. It's obviously working for you. You've picked up more, you know, defeats than us, but you've not bothered drawn any games. You're playing well. It's weird. I mean, you've kind of come under the radar in some respects. I think because the fact that, you know, we've not played for a few games, and I think you've had, you know, some decent results in recent weeks. You've kind of skipped up the league, which shows you how close it is in this division. But yeah, I mean, I think we just need to find that identity, and that's something that last season we didn't have at all. We didn't have any identity, and when I come on these preview pods and people ask me the question, you know, what style of play do you play? I've kind of struggled to answer it, but you know, it's good to see that you're, like I just alluded to in my earlier answers, saying that, you know, we've you know, chops and changes things, and we don't know what side he's putting out or how we're going to play. I think, you know, the fact that you've kind of, and Lee Johnson stuck to his guns, and it's starting to work now, and you know, you're seeing the fruitions of that. Like I said, second in the league, a point off a top place at the moment, I think. So
yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's we just don't want to do what you've done in the previous 3 seasons. That's all.
Fuck it up, basically.
Yeah.
Look all right for a bit, then completely mess it up. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not fun. Final question, as always, where people will know that I'm horrendous at this, but I've been all right in the past few weeks. Prediction time.
Oh yeah.
I'm feeling dead confident, which is a worrying sign, but let's pretend it's not. I think we do. Obviously, we kept the clean sheet the other day, but I think we are susceptible to conceding goals, which is weird considering how good our defenders have had as a season. Flanagan, Bailey White's played well, and Callum Doyle's been really good. But I do fancy 2-1. I think the 3 weeks without games might catch up on you. I think we're confident, and when we're confident and in good form, then for me, we're the best side in the league. Obviously, that doesn't happen all season, hence why we're not top of the league. But big chance to obviously make a bit of ground on, well, I think go above Rotherham, I think, if we win, because Rotherham's game's off, and obviously Wigan's game's off against Fleetwood, so it's another chance for us to go further forward. And yes, Wigan may have games in hand, but games in hand you need to win. We've known that for a while. So I'm going to take 2-1 Sunderland as a short answer. But where are you going, James?
It's a tricky one. Like I said earlier on, like I don't know what side we're going to put out, because I don't know who's been affected. I don't know who's been training. Everyone's been hush in terms of that who's out and what have you. If we can field our strongest possible side in terms of like, no, I know we've got players that are out on long-term injury and stuff like that, but if we can field a strong side, I think we can go toe-to-toe with you, and it'll be a decent game. I think the fact that we'll take confidence from the fact that when you came to our place, we turned you over 3-0. I know you're probably going to say you're a different side since then, and you're also on a 8-game unbeaten run. I think that was the last game that you lost was against us. So we're going to take confidence from that, and the fact that we haven't lost since we played Oxford on the 2nd of October. So in terms of in the league, so that's got to be a positive. But like what you said, not playing a competitive fixture since 11th of December, I would take a draw. I would take it, however that draw comes. I would take a 0-0, to be fair. Just, the game to be on. I know it won't be, if it is a 0-0, it'll be a boring spectacle. But I've always said, if you win your own games and you draw your away games, you're not going to be far away. Well, you probably go up as champions, to be fair, with that sort of 2 points per game run rate. So yeah, any draw will be fantastic. If we put a strong side out, I can't see why we wouldn't be confident to win. But like I said, we don't know what's happened in previously. I would have preferred, if we were playing you on Sunday, having had a game on Thursday, I might have probably been able to give you a better prediction. But if we can come away with a point, I'd be satisfied with that.
And it's just now for COVID to call the game off, isn't it?
Exactly,
but James, fingers crossed it won't. And thanks for joining me. I hope obviously you have a cracking new year, mate, apart from the result. Obviously, I hope that you have a horrible Thursday, which is understandable. I'm sure you will return those sentiments. But thanks for joining me, mate.
No problem, Graham. Thanks for having me on, and have a great new year.
Cheers, mate. You too.
Cheers.